This part doesn't really need explanation, so it'll be straightforward, inshallah. If you have any questions, you can ask, but the detailed section we've covered. So this part is just going to be like a read through, and then if you have any questions, feel free to ask, inshallah. So 132, those that require nothing and are not disliked. So there's 4 types of fast mentioned, or 4 types of things that you can do which could either break the fast, make the fast makruh, or nothing happen. Right? And if it breaks the fast, then you either have to just make one fast off, or you have to do 1 plus 60 as a punishment. We covered the breaking fast. Those 2 sections are done about breaking the fast. The 3rd section is about when nothing happens. First example, it says blood cupping, hijama. Those of you who know what cupping is, they get a cup. There's 2 ways to do it. Modern techniques are they just put the cup on you and they just extract they have a device. They extract the air out. When they suck the air out of the cup, what happens? Your skin gets pulled up, doesn't it? So then it leave around like a red mark. They take it off. They get a surgical knife, a really sharp knife, and they make tiny slits in your skin, and then they put the cup back on. When they suck the air out again, what happens is the thick blood and the unhealthy blood, it comes out as holes, and they gather it, and then obviously they clean it off. That's one way to do cupping. Traditional way is you get like a horn, and when you light a fire, what happens to the oxygen? It goes right. So when you light the fire, it creates like a vacuum, an empty space inside the cup. So sooner they put it on your skin, it sucks the skin up, and then it does the same thing as taking the air out. So the air goes with the flame, and then they do the same thing, take it off, put some slits in your skin, and then they take. So the modern thing, obviously a lot of people these days do hijama, even if they this is like a medical treatment. So I know it's a sunnah to do, but not all sunnahs apply on everyone at every given time. There's a certain time, like for example, you see young students of knowledge, like 15, 16 years old, carrying a stick with them, and this is a sunnah. It's a sunnah at a certain age of the Prophet's life that he carried a stick. Right? So certain sunnahs have time and place and age, appropriate, like different circumstances where you apply the sunnah. So it wouldn't be applied generally everywhere and every given time. But anyway, so he says here, the modern thing to cupping, what would it be? Having a blood test. So when you go and anyone's had a blood test before from the youngsters, they put an injection inside you or a needle and they draw the blood out. That is allowed, that does not break your fast, nothing happens. As long as you won't become weak and sometimes you get a bit dizzy and lightheaded, then you might need some water. If you know that happens to you, then it's makruh. Then you're not allowed to do it. But generally, having a blood test is fine. The next he mentions using a toothstick, i.e. a miswak, the word siwak, but miswak what we commonly know as. Using a miswak is fine. Using a toothbrush is also fine as well. Okay, so you can use a toothbrush. Best obviously to use it without the toothpaste. Just using a toothbrush in your mouth, obviously. If you're in a Muslim community, in a Muslim place, if your breath smells in Ramadan, right? Everyone will understand, okay, this guy's fasting, we're all fasting, all of our breath stinks, it's okay. But if you're working in a professional setting and you're going to be interacting with non-Muslims, so then they might be put off from Islam, thinking, look how unhygienic it is, and like this guy's coming to work, and what kind of Muslims are these breath smells, and they might get put off. So in that circumstance, you're allowed to brush your teeth, even with a small amount of toothpaste, as long as you're not swallowing it first. If you swallow it, your fast is gone. Right? It has to basically stay in your mouth, and if you know that you might swallow it, you might taste in your throat, then don't bother. Right? If you can do it without all those, without breaking it, then you're allowed. If you know that you're a bit clumsy and you might break it, then don't. Yeah, so obviously that's personal, but generally just use a plain empty toothbrush is fine. Yeah, so you put the water on, it's like rinsing your mouth, you don't routine wudu, right? So similar like that. Obviously, you can rinse. You're not going to use a full-on dry one. Yeah, it might make your gums bleed. So just put some water in your mouth, and then if you do it standing up, it might go down. If you put your head back, it might go down. So just be on top of the sink like this, and then do it. Obviously, grounding will make it come out of your mouth, not go down your throat. So just be careful, but you're allowed. The best, just grab a miswak for Ramadan. Yeah. Next is rinsing your mouth and nose without the water going down your throat. So that's same with wudu. But you have to be a bit more careful in wudu. Normally we gargle the wudu. You can't gargle. If you gargle it, your fast gonna break. So you just rinse the front half of your mouth, you could say, and you rinse your nose without sniffing the water. So when you do wudu. And then the third is having a shower basically, or wearing clothes. You might be in a hot climate where you feel so hot, and then you better maybe wash your hat, put the hat on your head to your head gets cool, or you jump in the shower to stay cool, then that won't break your fast. Nothing will happen. So these things, blood test, brushing your teeth without the toothpaste, rinsing the mouth and nose without the water going down your throat, and having a shower, nothing will happen to your fast. And so it's fine to do that. Then they mentioned those that require nothing but the makruh. So these things, nothing happens. But the next one, the makruh. First is, if someone tastes food or chews on it, this is without obvious swallowing. If you swallow it, what happens? You've broken the fast. So if you chew or taste food, tasting food, I mean, why does it mention that? It won't be for everyone. Like for example, I don't want to say any names, but generally, I'll give my own example. Like I've never cooked in my life, for example, yeah? And I've never cooked, and then in Rosé, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna taste it, I'm the chef today in the family. No, you're not. So you can't taste it. It'll be for mothers who have children, for their safety, they might want to taste the food if it's too spicy for them or not. Or a woman, for example, her husband is very, you could say, harsh, and he gets angry and vexed if she doesn't cook the food properly. So she thinks, you know what, I better taste this. It might have the right amount of salt, or it might not be too spicy, just to make sure it's right so she doesn't get in trouble by her strict husband. Then that woman is allowed to taste the food. Right? So generally, you can't be just saying, I'm going to go to the shop and buy chocolate or something, and I'm going to taste. I'm only tasting, I'm going to spit it out afterwards. That will break your fast. Okay, so it's only for certain circumstances. I know they're allowing youngsters here, they might try to find a leeway out, so I'm being a bit careful with my words. And so it's only for certain people who need to taste the food. But if you don't need to, if you're not the person responsible, you're not the chef, then don't bother.
You said about the bath. Why do you need to do ghusl for that?
Okay, so imagine ghusl becomes fardan, that's a good question. And you need to have a shower, and rinsing your throat, mouth and throat, nose, it has to be done thoroughly in ghusl. But during a fast, you won't do it thoroughly. Right? So you won't gargle it and you won't sniff the water.
During the fast, you don't need to have a ghusl fast because the rosa will break.
No, it can happen. For example, someone went to sleep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah? So then...
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so it can... So in that circumstance, you only rinse the front of your mouth and nose without making sure that you haven't swallowed the water or it doesn't go down your throat.
And it's still fast.
Yeah, your fasting will be, and your ghusl will still count. The both will be fine. Ji, you forgot. That was a quick forgetting. Alright, the next part is tasting food without swallowing, that's fine. Ji.
What if you're a chef in a restaurant?
If you're a chef in the restaurant, then you can't. Because if you're tasting every dish, then by the time you finish tasting, you can have a full meal in your stomach. Yeah? So you're not allowed as a chef. But it depends obviously like your circumstances, and that'll be like for a chef who might be, that's his only job and his boss is very strict and he needs to make sure the food's right, otherwise he'll get a sack. That person will need to get one unique fatwa for himself. So he'll go to a qualified mufti and tell him all his scenarios, and then he'll judge him and tell him what he should do best. But this is only for rare scenarios. At home, obviously, a mother or a wife, she's not going to cook 50 dishes in one day. It's going to be one simple dish or two. So then she can taste those if there's any problems going to happen. That's why.
You know, if the mom is gone and the kids might have something, then is the man allowed to taste the check? Would that be
No, this is for anyone who's the guardian at that time. Yeah. Sometimes it could be the other way around. The wife's strong and the husband has to do the cooking. We live in the 21st century, so unfortunately things are the other way around sometimes. But that could happen as well. So if the wife is like saying you better cook the food and I'm going to work, some that happen, the wife works and the husband cooks. The day the husband works, the wife cooks. That's an understanding between the family, that's fine as well. Men should know how to cook generally, you should know how to cook. It's a life skill, it's not something feminine, but you should know. Most restaurants and takeaways and burgers you enjoy, they're made by men, right? So you should generally know how to cook. I don't know if others are gonna like it, but even if you've cooked before and you don't cook normally and you're poor at cooking, even if it's nasty, because you cooked it yourself, you still end up eating it. You still can digest it, but others might not be able to. But as a human being, everyone should have the skill of cooking. But anyway, another one he mentions here is straightforward, having any relationship with your partner that could cause your wuzu or ghusl to become necessary, and you're fearful of that, then you're not allowed to do that, so that's makruh. Then he also mentions here, if however one feels, okay, that's straightforward. The following actions are recommended. So these things are mustahab when fasting, and it's important that we keep this in mind. The first thing, everyone should have the suhoor meal, the sehri meal in the morning. Even if it's one sip of water. You know, some people will be lazy and can't be bothered to get out of bed, or they might have a tight time schedule that they need a full sleep, so they don't have the time to go downstairs and cook. And then just even having a sip of water, you can keep the glass next to your bed with something covering it, and then have 1-2 sips and then go back to sleep, then wake up for Fajr. That's fine as well. So having the sehri meal is very, very important. It has a lot of barakah in it. So even if it's one sip of water, that's fine. So that's the first thing that you should try to do. Second thing it mentions, to delay the sehri meal. So imagine Fajr starts at 5 o'clock. You should try to not have your sehri at 2 o'clock. Even though if you had it at 2 o'clock, your sehri is still done. But it should be closer to 5 as much as possible. But like we're leaving about 5 minutes gap. So if 5 o'clock Fajr starts, then 4:55 you should stop eating. So that should be, don't try to eat like 3 hours before. Try to keep it as close as possible. Number 3, he mentions, when you open the fast, the azan happens at iftar time. This one everyone does, right? There'll be too much in a rush. That open your fast straight away, don't hang around, don't waste time. So if the fast opens at 7 o'clock, some people start eating at 6:59, that'll break the fast. Yeah, even if you, at 1 minute, even 30 seconds, and you knew the clock was 30 seconds left and you ate, your fast is broken. Right? So when you're sure 100% the fast is open, you open it straight away, you don't hang around, you don't waste time. So these 3 things are really important. First, having sehri. Second, delaying the sehri about 5-10 minutes before the end time, and having the iftari. Soon as you know and you guarantee that 100% you show the times of iftar has happened, you've opened the fast straight away. You know, some people are like, I'm going to wait 10 minutes just in case. No, that's makruh to do. Right? If you know it's open, you open it, don't delay. Yeah, so open it straight away.
Is it better to delay sehri like forced outside of Ramadan, is it?
Same. Even if you do a nafil roza, right? If the ideal sunnah, because the reason, hikmah behind, the wisdom behind delaying the sehri is because it'd be easier for you to do the fast firstly. Now, if you ate like 5 hours before and went to sleep and then you did the fast, you still might pull it off, but you might be more weak and you've actually lost that blessing of the assembly time. So this is, these, the general rules that they're telling you here, they're inside Ramadan and outside. They're for fasting in general. It's not just for Ramadan, these ones. So the following action during the day. Okay, so the next list they're giving you on page 134. In this one they mention, sometimes something happens that you might break the fast or the fast is broken. Now, it's still necessary for you to stay hungry the rest of that day. So the first example they give you. Imagine at 2 o'clock Zohr time, I was performing wudu for Zohr. I know I'm fasting. I rinsed my mouth and I swallowed it. What happened to my fast? It broke. Can I say, yes, it's broken now, it's an accident, but it's still broken, I'm going to have a munch now. You still have to keep the fast. Even if you broke it by accident, you broke it by purpose, after that incident of breaking it, if you eat, then you are sinful for eating. It's still wajib for you to stay hungry. It's still wajib for you to continue that fast.
If you're doing a nafil fast and you break it on purpose, do you have to still keep 60?
No, nafil fast is just one. You can nafil one if you can break it on purpose as well. Yeah, so then you just have to do that one fast afterwards, whenever you can. Second thing they mention here is, if you're traveling, you don't need to fast, right? That's if you're traveling at any time. Now a person is traveling, he didn't fast. He's turned up home now, and imagine someone was traveling to Birmingham, he didn't keep a fast. At 4 o'clock he came back home, everyone's fasting, what does he do? He still has to start his fast basically. He still needs to make the fast on because obviously he missed half the day. But if you come back home and you're not traveling anymore, you still have to continue that fast and add to the adab for the time of fasting. Third one, a woman who's not fasting because of her monthly cycle, or she's given birth to a child and the bleeding after that. Now the woman, she stops, and now she's pure. The rest of the day she's not allowed to eat as well. A non-Muslim, he becomes a Muslim in the middle of the fast. So obviously he's non-Muslim in the morning, he's eating, had his breakfast, then he's like, he got encouraged to accept Islam. At Zohr time he accepted Islam. Soon as he accepted Islam, after that until Iftari he can't eat. And the last one, a child who becomes baligh, a child who experiences adulthood in the middle of the fast, straight away he has to start his fast. He's got no choice. So he's not fasting, he has the experience, he becomes an adult, and now he has to continue that fast. For the first 3, he has to make up the fast. For the last 2, like a child who becomes an adult or a non-Muslim becomes a Muslim, he doesn't have to make up the fast, he doesn't do qaza of the fast, even though it's half. But the first 3, they will have to make up the fast and do qaza of the fast.
What if he waits until after to accept it?
Then he's foolish. Why if he dies before that? That's a very good question. Well, if you know someone, this is important to know as well. Imagine, people do, I'm a friend at work wants to become Muslim, one day she'll have time to come mosque. You make him Muslim at that conversation he's having with you. So if someone says to you, I want to accept Islam, what do I do? You say, copy after me. I testify there's no God but Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last and final messenger. Ashhadu an la ilaha. That's the next sentence that comes out of your mouth. A lot of people phone me, they say, oh yeah, I just met a guy who wanted to become Muslim. I took his number, Imam Sahib, what date shall I tell him to come see you? He might die for 2 minutes, so you lost the opportunity, and you're sinful for that, by the way. So if someone wants to become a Muslim and they want to know how, you say, are you ready to become a Muslim? If he says, yes, I'm ready now, say, okay, copy after me. Everyone knows the second kalima. So you say in English and you can say in Arabic, and then he's a Muslim. And then you can say to him, okay, if you want to come to our mosque, to do it formally and put in front of the Imam, Bismillah comes. But now you know that he's ready to become a Muslim. But now just take him to the mosque, introduce him to the people and say, let's do the Shahada again. That's why, some videos you see people do Shahada in like a gathering or a mehfil. They've already done the Shahada already. They just do that as public, so everyone in the community knows, okay, this guy's a Muslim. But he's actually already done his Shahada already. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be that you delay the person's Shahada. So even if it's a school, college, anyway, if someone wants to become a Muslim, and this doesn't mean that you go around school and forcing guys. Yeah, I know some student did that of mine. He's like, I said there's got another Muslim guy in his class, and he's like, copy after me. And he's like, Ashhadu, and he copied him because you're a Muslim now. Yeah? But it doesn't work like that. You can't, obviously, you can't do like that. It has to be serious. The person has to be, it has to be authentic. Do you any more on this? So the next one will be exemptions of fasting, from fasting. So these following people, they are excused and they won't need to fast. Number one, a sick person who feels his illness will worsen. So a person who's unwell, he's bimar, he doesn't need to fast if he has a few reasons. One, he feels that he's going to get worse. But how does he know he's going to get worse or not? There's 3 ways to find out. One is past experience. The other one is that he knows the illness he has, if I actually fast, I'm going to get worse. He'll know that by the illness he has. And the third, a qualified Muslim doctor. It can't be a non-Muslim. It has to be a qualified, practicing Muslim doctor who says, look, the illness you have, you're not allowed to fast. So get better than start fasting. Okay, so that ill person, he's excused from fasting as long as there's a fear that he will get worse or stay unwell for a longer period of time. So imagine he could get better in 5 days and then he starts fasting and now he's ill for like 1 month. That person, he doesn't need to fast until he feels better. Right? Second is a woman who is pregnant or she's giving milk to a child. And obviously a woman can feed a child until the age of 2 years old. So a woman in this situation, she's weak, she needs energy, same situation. If she knows from her experience, if she knows because her doctor told her, obviously, or she feels that her or the baby, it doesn't have to be her health, her or the baby in her stomach, or the baby that's born and she's feeding, if she feels that they are vulnerable, then she doesn't need to fast, she will have to do the fast afterwards though. And then the third would be a person who has become extremely thirsty that he might die. That would be obviously a person who's traveling maybe in a desert, in a challenging climate or a place where he might feel that his life is at risk. So if he fasts, he could die, or then that person is exempt from fasting. But obviously that could apply in the UK as well. It depends where you are. You might be stranded somewhere. You might not have any connection with anyone. So anyway, if you feel that you're already in a situation that you're already dying for water, and now an 18-hour fast is about to start, and you think, you know what, I can't last 2 hours more without water. So fast is starting, let's just start it. And then he starts his fast. He'll be excused because he's ready, his life is at death, his life is at risk. It could be a fear of death, so that person won't need to fast. The third is a traveler, a person who is traveling at the time of Sahri time. Right? So in the middle of the day, if this person, Sufyan, wakes up in the morning and he's like, you know what, I'm going to Nottingham, or I don't know, I'm going to Birmingham. Then people keep a fast, and then they start going on their mission, and then they break the fast. I love YouTube, young guys, Dawa guys and all these. They do this and they say it's allowed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran Kareem that if you're traveling, you don't need to fast. If you're traveling, you don't need to start the fast. Right? So you have to be a sailing time, it depends if you're a traveler or not. At Sahri time, you ate 2 party, had pakki chow, went to sleep, started your fast, and then 12 o'clock lunchtime, you're like, you know what, boys, let's go chilling, let's go Manchester. And then halfway, like, you know, let's break the fast because we're traveling now. It doesn't work like that. It's guna to break the fast. At Sahri time, you have to be a traveler. So imagine I went to Manchester and I'm staying the night there in my auntie's house. And then in the morning, Sahri time, I got the option. Shall I fast or shall I not? I'm a traveler, so I got the choice. That's what it means. If you're traveling, you don't need to fast. Yeah, so if you're already starting the fast, it's haram to break the fast.
You have to make up that fast afterwards.
Yeah, you have to make up the fast. Any fast you miss, even with a valid reason like this, you still have to make up that fast. But you just be exempt on that day due to, you know, all the list they're giving here, a sick person. So when he gets better, imagine he missed 5 fasts of Ramadan, he's unwell, he's in hospital. After Ramadan, you do those 5. A woman who's feeding a child or going through labor, whatever it is, she missed a certain amount of fast. Then afterwards, when she feels healthy, then she will have to do those fasts straight away. Ji.
You know, let's say Zoe is like 2 and someone gets his Pakistan at 12. Then the fast, when he's in Pakistan, it's a completely different pattern. So how would his fast work?
What is?
Like, let's say it's Zoe there, but you haven't even done the iftar when you left UK. Then would you have to make up your fast? Because
No, generally it won't happen like that. Because the time, it won't vary that much by time. If I get what you're saying. Like, for example, you started a fast now, you jumped on the plane, and most likely you will come across iftar somewhere. And when you land at that place, obviously you're a traveler now. So if the fast is already started, you're a traveler, you don't need fast because you're traveling and you didn't make the intention anyway. And if you made the intention, imagine you were still flying and you thought, it's Sahri time now, shall I just keep a fast? And you were mid-air in the flight. You kept the fast and then you got there and your fast has already started. But because of the flight and all that, you won't go through the time zone so quick that you'll miss the Sahri altogether. You get it? It won't happen that quick. That you miss both of those things. You won't miss it. If it does happen,
Also 5 hours different time.
yeah, so but generally you won't miss the, you come across it somewhere. And if you don't, then good luck with your extended fast. The fast can get extended. That makes sense. Like if you're flying in the opposite direction and then so you're extending your fast by a few hours, that will happen. Right? Or you're flying and you shorten the fast if you're flying in the opposite direction. But you will come across Sahri and iftar somewhere. It's not possible for you not to meet sunset or dusk somewhere. You're gonna meet that somewhere. Either on the fly, mid-flight, landing somewhere. Wherever you come across Sahri time, that's where you make the judgment. It's not about like I'm gonna get to Pakistan 9 hours later, what's gonna be there? No. When you're flying in the sky, what's happening where you are at that time, that's what matters. So where you are in the sky, if Maghrib time is kicked in, it's getting dark, you can see outside the plane, your rozas are open, so you open in mid-flight. And then if it's starting to get light and you know Fajr time is about to kick in and you're mid-flight, you got the option, should I keep the fast because I can do it, I'm fit enough to do it, or you know what, I got the choice, I'm not going to keep it because I'm traveling. But you'll come across that on your journey.
What happens when you're traveling but then you don't know what time iftar or Sahri is?
You will know. When does iftar happen? What namaz happens at that time? Maghrib. So Maghrib happens at sunset when it gets dark. So you just look at the sky. You don't need a clock. The clock is a modern thing. You just use the world Allah has given us. Right? If you just ponder about the world, just looking at the sky will tell you which namaz time it is. And just by looking at the sky, and if you got the knowledge of the stars, for example, then you can tell where's north, east, south, or west. You can even tell the direction by looking at the stars and all that. Yeah, so you don't really need, you just need a bit more extra knowledge. But for the namaz one, it's quite easy. You just look at the sky and you'll find out. what time it is or what place it is. So the next thing they mention here is, if one who breaks the fast due to a valid excuse, as listed above, passes away before having the chance. This seems a bit confusing here, but I'll just say in other words. If you miss a fast and you had a valid excuse to miss the fast, right? Imagine someone missed a fast and then it was Monday, Ramadan finished, Eid was on Tuesday, Wednesday he can start fasting. So Wednesday is like, you know what, I'm still enjoying my Eid, I'm not going to keep the fast I missed. Thursday is like, I'm enjoying my Eid, is my after party of Eid. Yeah, and now I'm going to my pupo's house today. Then on Friday, like I'm going to my nanny's house. Yeah, so he doesn't do the missed fast. Did he have 3 days to do it? But he chose not to do it. So now if he dies, he should tell, oh, he's about to die. Obviously, most likely you'll be able to tell in a lot of cases, your death, it doesn't, you'll be informed of it, maybe you're on your deathbed already. So the people have to pay for that fast when you die from your money you left behind. Right, like £6 a day, £7 a day per fast, they'll have to pay. But if you didn't have the chance, for example, Monday you missed the fast, Tuesday was Eid, and then on Wednesday you died. Did the guy have the chance to do the fast? If he didn't come across a day that he couldn't do the fast and he died before that, then he doesn't need to pay. If he had the chance to do the fast and he didn't do it, then he needs to pay. If that makes sense, right?
Who's gonna pay for him?
So that's a good question. Whoever he leaves the money with.
But like, how would they know?
So that's why you should inform the people. Someone close to you should know of. Like for example, a person, he had a heart attack in the middle of Ramadan, 20th of Ramadan. So for 15 days he was in hospital. The last 10 Ramadan and 5 extra days. Most likely his family gonna know that he missed the fast, right? So now, after 15 days, he passes away. His family will know that he missed 10 fasts, but he didn't have a chance to make them open. But imagine he was ill for 15 days, and then he was okay for 10 days. Right? He's got 10 fasts to do. He could have done them, but he's been lazy. Now he needs to pay for those 10 days. Because he had the time to do it, but he's been lazy, so he needs to do it. And the family will know that obviously if dad was fasting or the brother was fasting, they'll know generally, someone close to him will know anyway. If not, then obviously the person has to be responsible for it on the day of judgment himself. Even paying for it doesn't mean that you can get away with it. It's just a way to decrease your punishment. But you still are sinful for leaving a fast. Generally, if a person could have done it and they didn't do it, they delayed it, so it's makruh to delay the fast, which is necessary upon them. Yeah? And these are just random notes that they've given here. When making up a fast, so imagine I missed 3 fasts of Ramadan. Do I need to do them all 3 in a row? No, I don't. I can do one Monday, one Friday, one next week, Thursday, like that. As long as I do them, it doesn't matter. I can do them after 6 months, 2 months, 3 months. It's my choice. But obviously, the sooner the better.
Can you say that the fast is 12 hours? What if they do 6 hours fasting and 6 hours second?
No, you can't do it. It has to be a complete fast. You can't do half a fast. That's what non-Muslims do.
Fast, fast. Just practicing.
So a person who does a nafil fast, like you mentioned, someone asked about a nafil fast, and they break the nafil fast, then you have to do the fast again. But you can do it anytime. But now it's not nafil anymore. It's wajib. You're sinful for not doing it. And the next one is the giving reasons why can a person break a nafil fast. Entertaining some guests. So the host and the guest both can break it. So imagine Ghulam came to my house and I'm like, I have to give my guest some food, it's sunnah to provide. So I give Ghulam some food and he's like, I'm fasting. I'm like, come on, you come to my house, I'll give you food. And then he starts eating and he's like, why you not eating? I'm like, I'm fasting as well. He's like, you made me eat yourself. We both can actually eat and break the fast because it's nafil. So any nafil fast, you both can break, especially if you have a guest, and it's sunnah to look after your guests. And then, if you both agree, like we were both fasting till we'll do the fast, I can't bother to do tomorrow, it's fine. But if you don't honor your guests, then that's against the sunnah as well. So you should honor your guests and give them some food.
Does that nafil fast become wajib?
Yeah. I mentioned that when you were talking. Ji.
Include the Monday, that include Monday and Thursday.
And that's any, you know the word nafal, apart from fard, everything else generally in fiqh falls under nafal. So what we call nafal is mustahab. Then you have sunnah ghair mu'akkada. Then you have sunnah mu'akkada. All them technically is nafal. So if it's not a fard fast of Ramadan, if it's not a fard fast like you promised, like if I pass my driving test, I'm fast on Monday, right? Then in that case, those are the compulsory ones. Anything apart from that, fasting on Monday and Thursday, fasting 13, 14, 15, there's sunnahs to do, i.e. is a nafal fast. In other words, anything apart from fard is called nafal. So if you've done a sunnah fast on Monday and then you broke it, that's the same as nafal basically. Ji.
If someone does pass their driving, that should they fast out of that gratitude.
That's something that we should, that's a good thing, keep in mind. That you should do anything of gratitude. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a ni'mah, Allah, because I know he's passed his driving test, that's why. That's that question. But if Allah gives you a blessing and you achieve something, imagine you got a new job, a new car, some blessing that you got in your life, you passed your exams, then you should give some sadaqah. That sadaqah could be, imagine you're broke, right? Person like, I don't have any money, how am I going to give sadaqah? Then what he can do is maybe keep a fast, maybe teach someone, even teaching someone how to read a bit of Quran, that's sadaqah as well. So any good thing that you do, even tell someone, do you know this is sunnah to do, that's sadaqah. So if he does it like, I'm broke, I can't give any money, I can't throw a party for this good blessing I have. So do something kind with the intention that I'm passing on the knowledge of the Quran, I'm teaching someone something, then that will be your way of to say thank you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do shukr and be grateful. But if you can't do it financially, then maybe give some charity, give something, treat your friends, treat your parents, whoever is praying for your driving lessons, you got some money saved up, right? So you treat that person as a form of saying thank you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shukr, and then you're being grateful to the person as well who helped you through the journey of that. Where you, like for example, in school you pass your GCSEs, got good GCSEs in year 11, then the teachers who help you to pass would be a sunnah to give them something, right? To say thank you for helping me in my journey. These are the characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ that we have lost in our community, but we should try to adopt them, inshallah. The rest is done already. And so these two pages we just finish off, inshallah. It's straightforward about i'tikaf, and we should be done in 5-10 minutes, inshallah. Okay, so they mentioned i'tikaf is of 3 types. First i'tikaf, everyone knows. That's the last 10 days of Ramadan. That's straightforward. Second i'tikaf is when someone promises, if I pass my driving test, I'm going to stay in the mosque for 1 day, I'm doing i'tikaf. That's the second type of i'tikaf. That's compulsory as well. And the third type of i'tikaf is whenever we enter the masjid, we should make the niyat of i'tikaf. You're going for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You should make the intention of i'tikaf. If you didn't, then it's guna to talk in the mosque. It's guna to eat in the mosque. It's guna to drink in the mosque. Right? So, if you want to make it permissible for yourself to eat, drink, and talk about beneficial things in the mosque, then when you walk inside, you make the intention of i'tikaf. If you didn't, then no eating, no drinking. And if you didn't, like imagine you didn't make the intention of eating and drinking, and you just walked in, prayed in the mosque, and I'm giving some food out, or someone's giving some food out in the mosque, you want to eat, then you make the intention of i'tikaf in the mosque, and then you can eat in the mosque. That's like, for example, the mosque would be this hall. If you're going to the side room and eating, you're not inside the mosque. So that's like the community hall, or the back hall, that's a community hall. So you can't eat and drink with there without making the intention of itikaf. But in the masjid hall, you'll have to make the intention of itikaf. So here they mentioned 3 types of itikafs. One, the one of Ramadan, last 10 days, which you need to be fasting to do the itikaf. Second is when you promise to do itikaf, you also need to keep a roza on that one as well. And the third is the optional 5 minute, 10 minute, one day, 1 week, those optional itikafs, right? When you can walk in and out anytime, then that is the third type of mustahab one. It says, the first point I've done, so those which you made a vow or the Ramadan one, you need to keep a roza with those. So the first 2 categories, the Ramadan one or the one and you made a vow that I'm going to keep a fast, you need to do itikaf with the roza on those. The third one, there's no minimum time span. Like when I said if you just walk into the mosque and you make an intention, if you're there for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 10 hours, there's no time limit, minimum or maximum. Now the mentioning about the itikaf, a person doing a proper itikaf like the 10 days of Ramadan, which people will do this year, right? So now, that one you can't leave the masjid without a valid reason. If you do, you have broken your itikaf. And then you'll have to make up that itikaf again. So imagine I'm doing itikaf, a valid reason would be going to the toilet. You can't obviously do inside the mosque. So you got a valid reason to go. Second valid reason would be that you need to read Jummah. So imagine you're in a local mosque where they don't do Jummah namaz. You can go to the main Jamia mosque to read Jummah and then come straight back. Not hang around, go chill with the boys, I'll see my mom on the way and do this and that. You can't do none of that. And so that'll be another valid reason to leave. Another would be an emergency. Obviously you've fallen ill and or something. Any emergency could happen. Imagine like in my local mosque, I know it wasn't Jose, but I know it happened. The masjid collapsed in Birmingham. I remember randomly the masjid ceiling just fell, roof just fell through, and obviously the masjid was destroyed. So obviously now they're majboor to leave the mosque. So that would be an emergency. It could be other emergency like a fire or anything like that. You could leave the masjid. But if you can make your way to another masjid in your locality, if you have one, imagine that's the only mosque. Obviously you got no choice now. Itikaf's broken. There's no mosque there anymore because of the health and safety issues. But if there's another mosque, you go there and you continue your itikaf. It doesn't mean that you that's in itikaf's done and dusted. You continue your itikaf in another place where you can do it.
You know, I said if you have like a family member who's ill and you know they're in the hospital for about a month, can you go visit them?
No. So if it's just seeing a person who's unwell, it's not a valid reason.
What is just a janaza? Because janazas only happen once.
That is not your responsibility. As long as that's from the kifaya. If someone does it in the community, it's sufficient.
Even if it's your own family.
So the ulama said that against that basically. Wouldn't generally be a valid reason to leave.
You know, since your local mosque collapsed, is that why you came here?
No. I came to help you.
Say if you know you go to your local mosque to read Jummah and someone gives you salam and they want to have a conversation but you walk off, what do you do like? And they want to have like a conversation?
Sometimes obviously people are ignorant and they won't understand that, like if you might say, look, I don't want to talk, they might get offended or like, why did you blank me and stuff. Just quietly. The ulama mentioned that if you do go to a public place to give, to read, you go in a way that you're covering yourself. Imagine like you're wearing a parda, for example, you're lowering your gaze. You try not to, like some people go to a mosque, like try to find out their friends are there, who's there, let's see who's there, right? No. You go in a way that you won't get disturbed. And if someone does disturb you and they're trying to make a conversation where you've been a long time no see, you say, I'm in itikaf, sorry, I can't talk. And just carry on going about your business. Yeah, that won't break your itikaf. Because now you're just making the person aware that don't disturb me. But if you, obviously that person will know himself if he's taking the right steps to prevent that from happening. Another thing they mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned it. It's on the next page. I'll come to that. So a woman, she does i'tikaf at home. A man, he does i'tikaf in the masjid. A woman, she will do i'tikaf at home. And a home doesn't mean that she can be chilling around the whole house. A home means that, and every house should have a space where you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Even if it doesn't have to be the full room. A section where enough for musalla. If a musalla can fit there, that means you can pray there, you can eat there, you can sleep there. Those are the things you need to do for i'tikaf. So if you, for example, have a small tight house and everyone got their own bedroom. Now in your bedroom you might be sharing with your brother, for example. And now you want to do, as a woman or as two sisters are in a room, let's give a sister example. Two sisters are sharing a room and she wants to do i'tikaf. One sister, the other one doesn't. So she'll corner off the room where they normally pray namaz, and that'll be her place for i'tikaf. So the rest of the room won't be, she can't be wandering around. Go to the toilet, do wudu, come back. And then the food will be given to her in that place of where she's doing i'tikaf. But if imagine there's no one at home, right, and she's the only chef, then she's allowed to go downstairs and cook, and then enough to eat sufficient. Obviously she's not going to be cooking for like 6 hours straight. It'll be just what she needs to make for herself for the day, and then go back and do i'tikaf. Yeah. No, she can cook for the whole house. For example, she has people who are dependent on her. Maybe she's got small children and the father's not present, so she needs to provide. Or it could be that the ulama mentioned though that firstly she should try to cook in the place that she is. Right? And simplest would be, at a modern time, the example would be that like she makes sandwiches or something. So you just take the cucumber and bread and all that upstairs. Imagine the husband can't make anything, right? And then he can take the cucumber and all the sandwich accessories, and then she can make it inside the place and then feed her children and so on. But if she is the only person who can actually go get the food, she's allowed. Right? Imagine she's living alone, she's alone at home. She's doing i'tikaf upstairs in her room. Now obviously she needs to go downstairs, get the food and so on. She's allowed to do that.
Even to the shop.
She should avoid going to the shop. But even if the guys inside the mosque are doing i'tikaf, imagine you're doing i'tikaf and you're the only person in the community. No one knows that you're doing i'tikaf or no one wants to give you food. You're allowed to go to the shop to get food. Yeah? That's only sufficient. Like for example, if you're here in this community, you go to value stores, but obviously you use your brain as well. I need to eat for 2-3 days, so you get something that you can eat for 2-3 days. It won't be like, okay, today's I'm going Akbars, the next day I'm going Peri Peri, next day I'm going GNA, and I'm going to all these fancy restaurants every day. That won't be valid. Yeah, so you do what's sufficient for you. You get what you need and you come back.
Is it appropriate then for a woman, so if there's husband and wife and say a couple of children, she knows the husband can't cook, but he doesn't want to stay obviously, to stop her. Is it appropriate for her to sit in calf? Would she get the extra reward, or is it better for her not to do that?
That depends on the family understanding. Like the husband is like, look, I can't cook, but really I want you to make the most of Ramadan. If you want to sit in the calf, I'm spoiling you, but I'll bring the food upstairs, you have to cook it for me still. Yeah? Even if it means that she has to do the full cooking on the eggs, whatever, if he knows a way to get that upstairs and to do it, electric cooker, whatever, she can do that up there. Yeah? So, but obviously that's to be a mutual understanding. If like even that's the nafil roza, like for example, nafil fast. If the husband wants to spend time with her and she's keeping a roza, she's sinful. If that's making him commit sins or his eyes wander basically, then she shouldn't be doing it. So, or if it's going to cause any further problems. But obviously, a woman doing i'tikaf or nafil fast, she generally should have a conversation with the husband if she's married, and then they come to an agreement, and then she does the i'tikaf or the fast, nafil fast. She shouldn't just be going out with the husband like, what are you doing? I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and you do the i'tikaf, baby. Yeah, like, and that happens in our Pakistani community, right? So they should have a mutual understanding first.
That shouldn't be an excuse nowadays, because the reason being is that you have people watch YouTube videos and TikTok and all that kind of stuff, right? So they have recipes and all that on the internet. So the man could look at that and then provide for his family. So
He
there's
can,
ways
but-
around that nowadays as
No,
well.
there are ways, but the Sharia will still give that hukum, general arm hukum. That the guy will have to. It depends on the man, husband's attitude. If he's like, I just can't be bothered, I'm gonna make sure she does everything, right? Then obviously it depends on the guy. That he might have a hard task, he might have a difficult job to do, he might work, in a factory where he has to lift things, and then the last thing he wants to go home and start doing is cooking. You get it? So it depends on circumstances.
You know, like mom, sister, or wife, they're at the cup, but you go out and you come back at 8, and if those are 8:30 and you're tired, can they make food for you and continue to be in their own cup?
Generally, a woman, when she has to provide for a family, right? Husband is given, obviously, that's her responsibility. Whereas it comes to children, it'll be nabalig children who are her responsibility in that sense. So if you're like 21 years old, you're like, I don't care, I'm my mom's brought in, right? Then she doesn't really have to give you, because you can actually do it yourself, right? So in that circumstance, like, it's like me going to my parents' house and then I'm saying, you know what, my mom, you can't sit at the golf, why? Because I'm over now. I don't care if dad's happy. I don't want you to sit at the golf because I'm here. It doesn't work like that. Obviously, that legally her responsibility is, or if the child, for example, he might be an adult, 20, 22, might have disability, then it makes a sense. It might be like a bed bound or on a wheelchair. Then obviously the mother will keep the child in consideration. Generally, she would anyway. But a normal, fit and healthy lad, 22 years old, 20 years old, is like, no mom, you can't sit at the golf because I want roast and this and that, and you can't make it upstairs. That's not valid.
But what if like it comes factory or there's some kind of hard thing, then can you say, can you just leave the food on the table and you can go and carry on with this?
Not really.
Still has to make
He should just do it for himself. That wouldn't be a valid reason to say to the mother or sister who's sitting at the calf, you get out of the calf and you make it for me.
What if it's the wife? Then it's good.
The wife is going to be different because her right is to feed her husband in that sense. But for Bali children, the tables turn Islamically. You have to keep that in mind as well. When you become an adult, your job is to start looking after your parents now. Yeah, so if you're working and doing whatever you're doing, then it's your job to obviously start catering for the needs of your parents. So the tables turn. They've done their babysitting for the last 18, 19, 20 years. In the UK, probably like 25 years. Yeah, but generally they've done the babysitting, so now it's the khidmah of the children. So any capacity you have, this for the youngsters. Even if you're like 12 years old, 13 years old, if you know your mom and dad have tea and whatever it is, something you can make, then you should make it for them. Don't be sitting there thinking that, oh mom, when you make tea, make it for me as well. If you can make it, say, mom, do you want tea? I'll make it for you. Dad, do you want tea? I'll make it for you. Whatever, even if it's cereal or something. Right, Qasim? That's where you improve your spirituality as well. When you start doing khidmah of your parents at a young, early age. Later, when you grow up, you won't find it hard and burdensome. Why? Because you find it as a blessing to look after your parents. And I know that some people do try, and it's a dua for the parents that helps. Awais is not here, so I'll let him mention anyway. Like I taught Awais how to make bakki cha, right? He's like, Staji, how do you make it? So I taught him in the masjid. He went home, made it for his parents, and then his father came back and said, thank you for teaching my child, because he was so happy to make nashta for us. And he made us tea, and he taught, and he treated us on the weekend, and he made tea for us. So obviously, naturally, it makes the parents happy as well, and that's the natural dua that you're gonna get. When you do something for your parents out of blue, that dua and a dua that you requested, like that big dua for me, it have a massive difference. Yeah, Like in Urdu says Zameen Asman and Fatiha. It'd be a masjid, just one naturally coming out of the heart. And one is you're kind of begging for it, right? But the one naturally you cause the parents to do dua for you, that'll have a massive effect on your spirituality as well. So try to learn something, treat your parents as well once in a while, inshallah.
Make them happy. It comes from your heart. Then you can do it.
So you make the golf, does it have to be a full 10 days or?
Yeah, if the Ramadan one, that's a good question. I don't know why they didn't mention it here anyway. But the Ramadan one, you'll have to do the full 10 days. So if you made the intention for the Ramadan one, for example, you made the intention for the Ramadan one, you have to do all 10. You can't break it. But just say on the 25th day, you're like, I want to do some days. That's not the Ramadan one. Even though it's the same days, but because you never started the 10 days originally, then it's just considered as a nafil one.
Say if you do like the Ramadan one, but you can only do like 7-8 days.
So imagine you can only do 7-8 days, and you need to do or fly out, go to Pakistan, or you got holiday booked already, for example. Now you know you can only 7, so you only make intention that I'm not doing the Ramadan 10 days. I'm just here for 7 days. That's your original intention. I'm here only for 5 days, and people do that. People just like work around school. So for example, they think I've got 2 weekends, so I'm going to do itikaf on this Saturday, Sunday, and the next Saturday, Sunday, even though it's in the last 10 days. But that's the original intention, then that's fine as well. But that'll be a nafil one. He can get up and leave if he wants after 2 hours, and like, you know what, I thought it's easy, but it's hard. Let's go. Those who done itikaf, they find it hard. But it's hard on the nafs because you're tied down. But it's good to even do nafil ones, inshallah. The last line he mentioned is anyway, the Ramadan one, it should be done consecutively 10 days in a row. It should be, and you can't miss it out any days. That's it, that's the end of it.
No, she did it because, but instead of reading the Quran, you want to understand the difficulties that you need to take the lessons. Then are you allowed to have a one-to-one with your teacher? How he has to go like there?
Yeah. As long as you're still inside the masjid, right, you're allowed to. The whole point of itikaf is to build a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't talk about worldly things. So imagine if there's an itikaf happening here in this mosque now, and I'll do this lecture, you can join in. There's no restrictions inside the mosque of seeking knowledge or anything. Even if you have a regular, for example, in the modern day, you have a Zoom class with the teacher online, and then you're in itikaf, and you have to have the Zoom class. Obviously, it's not going to be any worldly based. It'll be a normal class that you generally that you need to attend for Islamic knowledge. You can attend that over Zoom as well. But generally, wasting time, like watching YouTube videos, that's not allowed. Just watching Islamic lectures online, because what's most likely going to happen if you're using your phone on internet, pop-ups will come up, ads will come up with haram things on there, people dressed immodestly. So then obviously you spoil your whole itikaf, the whole purpose. So if you can do itikaf, come to the masjid without a phone, and then sort your itikaf out, and then you leave, you feel something when you leave. If you're sitting there like some lab guys do itikaf, they bring the phone and they just play games on their phone, whole itikaf, right? And that's not itikaf. You kind of lost the spiritual aspect of the itikaf, so it'll be a time. You still get some reward, but you really lost the beauty of the itikaf. So do itikaf without mobile phones, firstly, if you can do itikaf, inshallah.
In those lessons, they say you can only talk strictly about the topic and subject, no other.
If you can't be having worldly conversations, just general conversations, how was your day, and you're just trying to talk outside of the topic itself, it won't be allowed. Another thing that I know you said there, one of the points, about doing business inside the mosque while doing itikaf. There's 2 types of businesses. One is like, imagine someone's an online trader, and that's how the household runs. So I imagine I sell things on eBay, for example, and now I can continue doing that as long as that means I need to provide for my family. If you don't need to provide for your family, like they've already got the wealth, you just need 10 days, then you shouldn't be doing those business transactions inside the mosque. Right? As long as you're keeping it outside. Like, for example, you need some money for your family to survive, there's a car that you're selling is parked in your drive, and someone's contacting you, I want to buy the car. Okay, you can say the car's outside. Obviously, not going to bring the car that's too big, but like a phone, whatever it is, right? Then you can do that transaction inside the mosque while you're doing itikaf if it's necessary. But you can't be bringing things in like, came my brother to drop things off to the mosque and then I'm sitting here, guys, you want to buy something and do business inside. That's not allowed. But as long as you're dealing with the outside, and you can do that if your family depends on it. But if it's just for time pass, you don't really need to do the transactions, you don't need to do that business, your family doesn't need that money as well, and you're just doing it to keep yourself occupied, then that's not allowed. That should be avoided for you.
Say if you're on the Zoom class but goes off key and they start talking like about some worldly stuff, what do you do?
If they start talking on the Zoom class, then you start doing the speed while you're waiting for them to finish.
Last week I asked a question about the kafara. If the one person is old, how would he pay, or they're poor, how would they pay up?
I'll have to check that question out.
Next time.
Just text me that, then I'll check. But this was the last lesson, and inshallah we'll start again for these formal Friday classes after Ramadan. Let me just double check the calendar. Next week is just one Friday before Ramadan, and then the following one will be Ramadan. So inshallah we'll have a 1, 2, 3.
Next week is a lesson.
4, 5. So it'll be like a 5-6 week break. Inshallah there'll be other lessons going on within Ramadan, different classes before Tarawih and so on. But this Friday session we'll start again, inshallah. It'll be the first actual Friday after Ramadan, whichever that works out, inshallah. So we got a few weeks break, inshallah. آمين اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.